And welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. I'm your floating smAsho head, Dan. And we are looking at the sun here in 304 angstroms. Some filamentary behavior there in the northeast, causing us to go, whoa! And then the moon moving into frame there, causing other people to go, whoa, my gosh! And that's a 48-hour video, by the way. Welcome to eclipse season. Let the tales of the Borg spheres begin. Also, we're looking at 171 angstroms. We don't see any coronal mass ejections or any sunspots or really any coronal holes. We do see a crown prominence on the north solar polar region. And we'll show you a close-up of that right now. And I want you to look right up here. You'll see a small crown prominence there. Right there. Actually, I was a little bit off. It's more like here. And there's a small crown prominence. It'll be at the beginning. There it is. Coming through right now. Right now, there it is. Small crown prominence. Something associated with a little higher levels of activity. And there's the close-up of the recent state of affairs in this filament over here. Looks like it's collapsing onto the far side of the sun on rotation. And next we'll also take a quick look at the colorized magnetogram with 171 angstroms to show very limited amounts of fields. No kind of significant field organization going on at all, and very low levels of solar plasma hitting the magnetosphere right now. KP index recently at 0, now up to 1. 10.7 centimeter radial flux, still at 70. So solar minimum conditions abound. And I wanted to look at some transients on today's daily space weather. And first we'll look at Sagittarius A star. You can find it on the Neil Gorell Swift Bat Observatory, and that stands for Burst Alert Telescope. Sagittarius A star, the Milky Way's core. This is its soft X-rays, and we actually saw some fairly dense transients there coming out of it in the last couple of days. A little bit of X-ray emissions there, as you can see. Nothing at a real high count level. Next we're going to look at Geminga pulsar. So just type Control F and Geminga and you'll find it. There are the transients from the Geminga pulsar, located very far away from the galactic core. Nothing too exciting happening there. And lastly, Cygnus X-3, massive X-ray binary, which you can see with the naked eye. It's the brightest star in the constellation Cygnus, known as Deneb, the tail of the swan. And it looks like it could be coming back off of its quiescent state in this turn. So you can see this thing. Let me just note that this level here is the same as this level way down here. So this particular object always returning back to its quiescent state, at least as far as we've seen, and then returning back to an active state where its baseline is somewhere around 0.03, as you can see on this graph. And so we are watching this very closely here as Cygnus X-3, one of the most important stars in the sky, especially because of its contributions to cosmic ray flux. I don't know why anybody listens. It's super important, and the ancients were informing us of its location for a reason. So check out the Neil Gorell Swift Observatory if you like, and we always keep links in the description to that site. And going back to direct solar data, some of the most direct, looking still at X-rays, solar X-rays looking weak and flatlined. Next we'll look at the real-time solar wind to see a very low solar wind density, pushing the 1 proton per cubic centimeter boundary, as space is not empty, folks. Not by any stretch. You've still got over 1 proton per cubic centimeter. So that's pretty diffuse, but it's not empty, is it? Solar wind speed 348 kilometers a second. There's the data from ACE. And next we're going to look at the geospace magnetosphere movies. This time we're looking at density and pressure, as we see such a low density that it's affecting the pressure. Keep in mind, folks, we're looking at magnetohydrodynamics here. This is not your regular everyday fluid dynamics, because there are magnetic dynamos involved, both on the sun side pushing out the solar wind and on the earth side interacting with the solar wind. There's the density. Keep in mind, light is low density and dark is high density. A fairly steadily weakening stream as forecasted yesterday. And there's the pressure, quite low, and this is a characteristic we often see, higher pressure in the magnetotail. And whoever sent me that email about the way the dynamics of this works, I did receive your email. I just haven't yet responded, because perhaps I should do a video entirely about that. Send me a reminder, as there's a lot of stuff going on all at the same time. Next, we're going to look at geospace ground magnetic perturbations. By the way, that's 4 hours of data. Here are the ground magnetic perturbations, which we look at daily as we see the creepy South Pole creeping up towards southwestern Australia, a pole over Siberia, and a pole over eastern Canada, making the net North Pole someplace around here. I don't know if you were aware. Let us know if you enjoy the return of the epic pen, making you go, "Oh my God!" Please leave a comment if you know who Gond is. Which segues me into talking about gaming. We are on Twitch, and there's going to be gaming videos coming up there soon. We nearly did today's space weather video live, so keep an eye on twitch.tv/smAsho. You never know what will happen. Please support the channel via things like PayPal, Patreon, and thanks to our patrons. Don't worry, folks, we're not undercutting you with our latest rollout, as there still is a $1 and a $9.99 a month level at Patreon, and that won't change, at least not currently, probably not this year. What did change this year is that we now have a Subscribestar account also, for all of you who don't like other payment methods for whatever reason, whether it's free speech, censorship, politics, or who knows, who cares. So check us out, subscribestar.com/smAshomash. That is starting out with only a $3 a month level, so perhaps check that out. Also, thanks to our new subs on BitChute, cheers. Check out the views on BitChute. We actually get more views there than on YouTube, which is quite incredible. So keep up the good work, everybody. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for leaving comments, everybody. We greatly appreciate it, and look for more varied content and exclusive content coming soon. Coming on the daily. Thanks to our YouTube subscribers. Please consider supporting the channel via Patreon or PayPal or perhaps Subscribestar. And please don't forget to press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Now let me take a moment to vanish as we get back into more stuff. But first, consider shopping at the Velo Shop for all of your cycling needs. The address is theveloshop.net. There's a reason I wear the jersey. Now allow me to disappear. There's the current auroral forecasts, and not very many auroras forecasted. And we see the continued spikiness in the GOES magnetometers. No particular surprise there. And we don't expect it to get smooth anytime soon. We've got some additional magnetohydrodynamics to cover in this episode, so stay tuned for that. Here's the current Gong 2 data, 1 hour and 52 minutes old. And we're going to see continued spikiness as we see some activity here. You can see these, I'll show you where it is with the Epic pen, this region right here. I fumbled. This region right here is showing some activity, and we'll show you the changes in the B field in a minute. Here's the last frame. So that'll be moving into the Earth space, into the Earth geospace soon in terms of magnetics. And you can see, if you look at this part of the B field, which is the blue portion, the blue field force lines, you'll see this area goes from pointy to quite blunt, indicating that the field is being pulled, affected by South Pole polarity in this case. And we won't get into it as this is the daily space weather video, not a complicated cosmology segment. By the way, I invite you to join the American Association of Variable Star Observers. While I'm not a paid member, I have signed up for the website as I need to contact the AAVSO because I have a couple of requests from radio telescopes that I'll be making probably after this video is done being shot. Electron flux has dropped a bit as forecasted yesterday. There's the electrons, the greater than 2 mega electron volt electrons, otherwise known as the relativistic electrons. And there's the greater than or equal to 2 mega electron volts. And we see that dropped again as forecasted. Let me just rock this back and forth real quick. You can use the total electron content forecast to show you a quick graphical representation of where you can expect GPS errors and satellite drag to happen. So not very many charging hazards or anything like that. Let's look at the ionosphere. And there you've got 6 hours of the ionosphere looking pretty normal. And of course, we do have the South Atlantic anomaly looking more normally anomalous than showing up deep in the South Pacific. As we saw anomalies in this area for the last 2 months, those are finally subsiding a little bit now as those areas were charging up at nighttime. Anyway, here's the latest image. That one coming in at 9:15. 13 megahertz there. Northern Hemisphere noontime. Let's talk about death row records. Now, we talked about this story the day it broke, as we talk about most stories. And while our news crawler services aren't super important, sometimes they're super amusing. Why did Hasbro buy death row records for $4 billion? You want to hear a stupid, idiotic statement from Hasbro CEO Brian Goldner? Check this one out. The acquisition of E1 adds beloved, story-led global family brands that deliver strong operating returns and provides a pipeline of new brand creation driven by family-oriented storytelling. Family-oriented storytelling, Death Row Records. I wonder if Mr. Potato Head will be releasing an album. And let's see how their stock has fared over the last year. Oh, ouch! Now, I'm not sure what day this broke. It probably broke right here when we covered it. But I really don't remember, so perhaps go look at our videos in mid-October, and you'll probably see something on the cover, something like this. Were you aware that Hasbro bought Death Row Records in 2019 for the tidy price of $4 billion? Did you notice its early performance today? Not a smart move. Do you follow me on Instagram? You may see exclusive content, like as I saw feathers falling from the sky.
And feathers are raining down from the heavens.
I don't know if a peregrine falcon ate a bird up there, or if there was a plane bird collision, or what happened, but you won't face any disinformation at Instagram.com/smAsho. Although you will face a tsunami of disinformation this election, experts warn. And I couldn't agree more. This article on USA Today, I don't know what it's going to talk about. But here's what I'm going to talk about. The Eurozone has their heads completely in the sand about coronavirus, as there are all kinds of travel shutdowns of trains and things moving in and out of Austria and Italy, and in the northern Italian region there are like a dozen towns that are shut down as a result of coronavirus. And they're talking about nonsense like Brexit and climate change and all kinds of BS about auto manufacturers and tech taxes, and it's freaking crazy. And smashomash.com/forum is on it and has been for over a month now, as our first post about virus was all the way back on January 23rd. So COVID-19, if you want to read all about it, we've got a massive repository of information which we keep updating as Apple shares drop, as Apple reports bad earnings, and all kinds of things go on all around the world. South Korea has all kinds of millions of people shut down, as the number of reported cases remains underreported. Olympics are in jeopardy as the Tokyo Olympics face an uncertain future, and all kinds of other stuff going on around the world about coronavirus. So in any case, not sure of the death rate. That's a mystery. Not yet what we would consider a global pandemic, but it's getting awfully close. And our latest story talking about supply chain woes reported by Procter & Gamble. Now, while I work in the supply chain and I haven't seen any supply chain issues with the northeastern portion of North America, I can say that for sure, as I've asked various different supply chain aspects if they've noticed any issues or interruptions with the food supply, and we don't see any yet. So that's good news, at least for the northeastern portion of North America. But Procter & Gamble saying 17,000 products potentially impacted, as there are all kinds of ships locked up in ports and things going on in Chinese ports and Chinese businesses not returning to work. Here's the graph of the global cases. It looks like it's still approaching 80,000. Again, keep in mind, folks, okay, it's 80,234 cases now. Keep in mind it's going to remain underreported, because when you quarantine millions of people, it's pretty tough for them to report on whether or not you have a case, as they don't know, since they can't confirm whether or not you have coronavirus while you're quarantined. Next, have you heard of Naomi Seipt? Well, hear her speak. It's going to be in German, and you're probably not going to understand it if you're an American viewer.
Und dabei kleben alle, wie Sie wissen, an Greta.
Anyway, she's not anti-Greta, she's pro-human, so perhaps hear what she's saying, as she's going to be all over the internet all day today. And here's the segue into snow depth. Oh my gosh, the northern hemisphere is burning up. That's why it's all covered with snow. Look at Greenland. Holy crow, it's going to melt. Oh my goodness, son of a beehive. Anyway, see all that snow? Yeah, I just wanted to also cite Global Cryosphere Watch, as you see this. That's 2 standard deviations above the normal snow. See, here this dot. That right there is 1 standard deviation above. That's 1 standard deviation below. And we're talking about the last 30 years from 1982 to 2012. And that's, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the 3rd year of 2 standard deviations above the northern hemisphere snow mass balance. So here's the Rutgers snow extent. I don't know, it's looking pretty snowy. I don't know what all this warming is about, because I don't see it. But let's look at pressure maps as we do daily, and press play here. Looks like a strong low in the entire northern Pacific. Looks very anomalous, and I would be on alert for earthquakes as a result of that, as it looks pretty freaky. And it looks pretty anomalous as to what the forecast is going to do. Man, oh man, that is a weird one. Check it out. There's 11 a.m. tomorrow, as that low just crashes into southern Alaska. And that's a pretty anomalous looking low as it starts to move due north, according to the GFS forecast. Let's go over earthquakes. Nothing over a 6 magnitude, but we saw at least one very deep one near Fiji, as well as a 4.8 on New Zealand. That one at 10 kilometers depth. There's a very deep quake at Japan at 471 kilometers depth and a 4.6 magnitude. And just scrolling up the list, we see a 5.2 at Fiji, the deep quake capital of the world. 5.2 magnitude quake at 530.2 kilometers. Here's another deep quake at the Mariana Islands near the deepest ocean trench in the world. And that deep quake at 114 kilometers and a 4.8 magnitude. Let's do the volcano rundown, but first we'll talk about Rupahu for a second day here. Something to keep an eye on. The Rupahu volcano, centrally located in the North Island of New Zealand. It is on the warning list now because of some seismic activity and some heating up of the water in the volcanic lake. Mount Aso erupting, 6,000 foot ash plume there. Dukono, 7,000 foot plume there. Popocatépetl, eruption on webcam. Fuego, volcanic ash in satellite imagery producing an explosive 15,000 foot ash plume. Sangay exploding, 20,000 foot ash plume there. Revenador flight level 15,000, it's exploding too. And while we're unable to detect whether or not Sabancaya in Peru is erupting, please do not attempt to jump a unicycle over the Sabancaya caldera. Next, taking a quick look and learn how to speak English. Looking at lightningmaps.org, we're seeing some Middle Eastern lightning. And I could have sworn I told it to put English tags on there, as now I don't know what I'm looking at. Some lightning over Israel, clearly, as well as the Gulf of Mexico. Check out lightningmaps.org. Next time you hear thunder, perhaps, amuse and shock your friends. Threaten your foes with thunder and lightning. Next, I'm going to vanish off the screen and show you the U.S. Doppler radar map. And now I'm going to reappear on the screen to go, more rain coming? No! Next, we'll look at nullschool.net at the jet streams. And there are the western ones, which are kind of all over the place, actually looking a little more organized on this side of the world than they have been. Here are the eastern ones. And here is a close-up of Australia, which could be the insanity capital of the world, perhaps. As I read some of that post, Kimberly, and wow, well-reported insanity there, I will admit. There are the water vapor maps over Europe and Africa. And here they are over the U.S. Let me blow that up. I don't know who ordered that rain, but not a fan. Not a fan. Anyway, we still see this long, dry air line here. And let's zoom in over northeastern New Mexico. That's my favorite convergence zone today. And yes, you can predict turbulence on flights. If you fly through those areas there over southern New Mexico, you will be bouncing around like you're riding a bus on a bumpy road. Please leave a comment if you've fallen asleep on a plane while flying over a portion of the country, which is like riding a bus on a bumpy road. It's pretty weird. Anyway, some great convergences going on there. Please send us some photos of some freaky clouds instead of to Mr. MBB333 so we can feature them on our channel and talk about actual atmospheric physics. Look at those convergence zones. Hall currents, Hall currents, Hall currents. as the Earth's atmosphere acts as a capacitor. And thanks smash team for viewing the video. Stay tuned for a bonus feature. It's the local yellow dwarf in intensitygram to show 0 sunspots. Here it is in colorized magnetogram to likewise show 0 sunspots. And very little magnetic complexity. Nothing to note there. Super low levels of activity. We are out of here. Here's a 193 angstroms view. Not a lot of coronal hole activity even, as the one north of the equator is pretty much drying up, although the South Pole coronal hole is large and in charge. So that's something to keep an eye on, and you get the idea. Anyway, we are out. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, use the proper instruments, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, we'll have to make more content soon.